Are you kidding me? That's what?
Yeah, every so often it happens that Ryan is right.
100% right. Not even a little bit right.
Tucker Pullman, 2 points last game.
No kidding.
My man!
Hey, neither does me running shirtless, but that turned out very well. Welcome to the PP1 Podcast. I mean, it wouldn't be a podcast if you didn't have massive technical problems. Not just on one side. Randomness problems everywhere.
Yes.
I mean, this is almost unprecedented, but I think every podcast goes through this. So it's like a rite of passage that just keeps you in check, right?
Yeah, and it's kind of appropriate too. Like if it's like a Canucks based podcast for things to just randomly go wrong that you can't explain, but do they seem appropriate for what you're dealing with, you know?
We're going to hit our stride about 40 minutes in, and then it's going to suck and drop out right at the end. Be like, oh, I saw this coming. That actually would be fitting. Welcome to the PP1 Podcast. If you happen to not been listening to the intro, I'm Ryan. Ted said he needed one more week to make sure he's ready to go. He'll be on with us next week. We better be. He's taking pictures of like some guy in the lake right now. You guys got to go to his Instagram. A buddy of ours, Matt, long story short, basically you go to Ted's Instagram and he's riding shotgun, taking photos of a dude showing his ass on an apple ladder in the lake naked. It's some calendar fundraising thing. Apparently the guy does really, really well on these fundraising calendars. So the shots are amazing. Shout out to Matt. Matt
great ass as well.
Yeah, it's not Burt Hutt, which is super weird, but this is a Kelowna thing. It's, I don't know. So anyway, Ted will be with us next week. I'll tell you our guest next week. We got a good one to finish off the regular season. But this week, we were going to make this happen, whether I had to drag this podcast machine all the way to the Lower Mainland, but I didn't have to. Cody Severtson, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm doing, man. Technical difficulties aside, happy to get on the podcasting game again because I haven't done it in a while. So I need to stretch my legs as we near the end of this dreadful season of Canucks hockey.
It's just been terrible. There was that one moment where we really believed that things were going to fall apart for the best.
Yeah.
And then they won a bunch and that kind of ruined it. And then we got Philip Hronek. We're like, oh man. And then we got hurt again. We're like, okay. And then they won again, and then they lost again. So it's the Canucks.
It was so disappointing because like there was no like through line of whether they were good or bad. It was like strings of being bad, strings of being good. So you could never get on board with one narrative. Like writing like the stanchies or whatever, I would like write my intro being like in bold letters, like, I don't know what's going to happen. Are they going to win or lose? What's my angle? Figure it out later. And then usually the game would be over. And then I'd spend the last like hour and a half being like, who won here? Was it Team Tank? Was it Team Playoffs? Like, I don't know anymore. I don't even think the team knows. Makes no sense. I can't keep up.
I remember when I back in my Canucks Army days, when I was writing I did all the game previews. Yeah. And that was, I guess it was 2 seasons ago, maybe now. And I mean, it was just at the point where you didn't know, like, there's nothing new. There's no new angle. There's no interesting tidbit to talk about. And you're like, how do I make Louis Eriksson exciting? Or how do I how do I come up with something that you're like 1% interested in? And then I was almost more excited to write the post games before they went to, what they are now. Mm-hmm. And, there's heat maps. We all love our heat maps.
Yeah.
And, just a recap. And sometimes you throw some fun in. I remember one of my last ones. I'm like, screw it. The season is over anyway. Like, send me all your dog picks. This is, you see the odd one. And I got and I'm like, tell me who your dog is. Like, let's get into it. And I had like 200. And it took me, like, this thing's going to go late. And I don't usually write late ones at that point. And I'm just like, oh man, like you're getting to know everyone's dog. And it kept coming for like 2 days. I'm like, guys, article's out already. Like,
game's over, guys.
Yeah, article's out, game's over. We're already playing, playing Chicago now. So now there's a conversation where you can just joke about stuff, and
Yeah.
it's a little bit lighter. I find reading what you guys have to say, but man, it's still tough to take, though. You know what I mean? Like when you
It
have to
is.
write something. I mean, even at least with podcasting, at the very end of the day, like if I'm just like, screw it, we're not going to talk the Canucks for the rest of the show.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want to talk about? Like, how are watermelons made? I don't know. Like we could go on and just talk about fruit, and I think that would be hilarious. But
Yeah. There's like
we're not gonna do it.
there's kind of like a duty to like the readers, like the people that like aren't on social media of any kind, who are literally like on Canucks Army, to read about the game because they missed it
Yeah.
for whatever reason. So you like have to kind of talk about it, and then there's that obligation to service them. But on the same hand, you're like, I can't describe this.
Like the
Who
first
cares?
people on the internet. These are the people.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't
Yeah.
subscribe to social media. Like we are literally here for the news.
Yeah, we're here
All
to
right.
learn news and the stuff that like we missed because they didn't talk about it on the broadcast or whatever. And you're like,
Yeah, I'll
okay,
catch the
well,
highlights at 11, but I'm gonna read this just before. Like, listen, I don't know.
yeah,
if
and
you're
it's
gonna
like
get a lot out of this.
I can only talk about like so much. Like I can't remember what game I did. I think I did like the Nashville game like a while ago. It was like a 7:30 p.m. start,
Yeah.
and usually I like try to like sit down like an hour before the game just to, like try and map out like what are the main storylines I need to keep track of, and then I wrote the opening paragraph for an hour and then deleted it as soon as the game started because I was like, I've got nothing. I don't know what to say about this team. And then like I don't think I did another Stanchies for like until the Pride game when I was like, okay, I actually know what to talk about here. I have
There's something to
some
get into at that
motivation
point.
here. There's
Yeah.
something to actually talk about that's like actually like worthwhile and meaningful. But
Mhm.
what like God bless White Art. I don't know how he does it season in, season out, especially like for this team when it's just the same crap at
Yeah.
the end of the year every time. We're just a team that's just like in free fall with the same storylines over and over again. I can't imagine doing that for as long as he has.
Probably
It's
just
like,
cries like some nights, like after, like no one knows, but he just like cries, just tears.
yeah, it's just tears. Maybe looks up like I don't know his very first recap when like the team was kind of like in playoff contention. He's like, yeah, it used to be that way. Not anymore, but it used to be.
There's been so like I think of like the blogging community when blogging is like really taken over. Canucks Army, and I mean Pasadaboulos, and like all the sites that really got a grasp of me. And I had my own one for a little bit as well, and everyone was kind of reaching out right as the Sedin era was ending and as this new wave was starting to come.
Yeah.
And like there was this teetering, like we've got so much to talk about, and it's interesting. And now it's like, oh man, they're starting to tank a little bit. I wonder what that change is going to be like. Oh, we should keep Kessler. We should do this. And then all of a sudden you start getting into the murky middle, and Bo Horvat and Brock Besser and Hunter Shinkaruk and you're getting all these like Frankie Corrados and like, oh well, maybe this will pan out. Maybe this guy will do it with Jake Vertan and all these guys. Nope. No, we're here.
We're talking about the new core, the new core that's going to usher in the new era for all the bloggers that started up and can't wait to talk about playoff hockey.
Yeah,
that's always the stuff that makes me like feel really old when you're like when you hear like Boulis or whatever, and he tweets out like, I started the blog wanting to talk about or cover playoff hockey, and you're like, oh yeah, I guess you started within the last decade of pain, and you only got to cover so much, and now you're covering nothing but pain. But you got a book coming out, so that's pretty rad. I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I just always think of that, and then all these guys that like started up like in the heyday of like the best the franchise has ever been, ready to talk about like a decade of success, and it just never came. Oh fuck! I couldn't even imagine how frustrating that would be.
I've seen. When did I start blogging? I started in. I think I was still living in the Lower Mainland, so it would have been like. I don't know if I was doing in 2011. I can't remember if I was, but definitely like right after. And no, I must have been before. And so yeah, like there was something to talk about there.
Yeah.
There really was. And I mean, playoffs and all the story. Yeah, because Schneider and Luongo. So I remember like talking about the tandems, and it was like there was substance there, and like you were angry about like, no, it should be this way because this is going to lead us to the cup. And now it's just like, You need to get rid of everybody, and then we'll be happy again. It's the complete opposite. Like, you need to bury and burn all of this, and then we'll be happy for what?
It's so tragic. It's like the storylines used to be like, okay, here's this excellent team, and the anger is coming out of how does the team sustain this success and continue to be as great as they are right now. And now it's like, how do we milk this bone dry cow to sustain not a playoff contender, which is exactly what this offseason is going to be too, where you're just like, okay, they have $10 million to not be this way again.
Yeah.
And no one to move because they're all too overpaid. And you're like, oh,
we're all going to be waiting for July 1 and like, well, that almost happened.
Yeah.
Well, just like September is going to be good.
Oh God. Like, I can't do it.
The next. And they're all of us like, I do wonder sometimes, like, we can never like divorce this team, even though we all really, really, really want to. And yet, there's just like this sliver of hope that even the most cynical, like, realist, like, I mean, bless Thomas Drance, like, I know he plays a bit of a character online, but he puts out like some intense content, and he's real about it. And yet, like, he's breaking down because he's just like, it's so real. And I remember Bochford was that way too, in a different way. But like, there's like this little shred. They're like, man, what if I could just not, like, everyone's like, what if I could not do this? But there's just enough, like, but what if there's a hook?
There's like enough, like, that's the thing, is like, you have Quinn Hughes and Elias Pettersson who are enough to keep one foot in the door at all times, where you're like, if some things somehow shake right, they could be that team, but the other 97% of your body is out the door. Like, it's not going to happen. It hasn't happened yet.
In the snowstorm.
Like, this is the year. This is the year I pull my foot from out of the door and I say, that's enough. I can quit you. And it just doesn't happen. I think last year when I did the show with Lachlan, I was like, I think the last 3 years or however long we did the show, every year I picked them to be a playoff team, because I was like you see my Twitter account, it's nothing but just like cynicism and negativity. Like, oh, guys, the direction is so bad. But on the podcast, I'd be like, guys, I think they can do it. Yeah. I still believe. I want to believe.
You can't help it though, because
you're right, you really can't.
There's just enough there, because they have a goalie. They've got a Norris defenseman, and they've got a center, and you've got a pretty awesome winger, which hopefully continues. And yet that's 4 guys, and those are all really good players, really, really good players. That's 4 guys though. 4 guys that you need 18 plus whatever, like 4 guys. You need a bunch more. So we're not quite there. And then you look at like Colorado and Tampa and even Toronto, and think like
New Jersey, like, just like the teams that are like on the up and up too, where it's just like, New Jersey has this dynamite young core that is all under 23 years old. They're all signed until they're 29 at like manageable cap hits. Same with Buffalo.
Like 3 years ago.
Yeah, I did the math, and it was like they won. I mean, they won 3 lotteries to get into the top 3 in 6 years, which will obviously help you quite a bit on that road. But it's like, man, to have the contract set up where you can give yourself at least 7 kicks at the can with Jack Hughes on like a bargain contract, like.
But the Canucks didn't even win the lottery, and they still got equally good players in most of them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Still,
like,
they lucked out,
slouching completely. Yeah, they lucked out. So no, we didn't get Jack Hughes, and no, we didn't. But we got Elias Pettersson when maybe that wasn't a guy they should have got. They lucked out and got Quinn Hughes. Demko's a different story, because that was already
and goalies develop on a completely different plane of existence than actual skaters. But it is kind of funny. Like, the drafts that they lost, like the worst, they ended up coming up like pretty okay in. 2017 they dropped like 3 spots. 2018 they dropped 2 spots, and it's like, still it worked out better because they somehow came up with the 2 best players in both drafts. I mean,
it's crazy. Anyway, we could wax poetic about that. So we're on Crier Media. You can follow along on our YouTube, on their YouTube, the Twitch, basically, if you know we're on Crier Media, you know they've got a lot of accounts, and we're going to milk every single account for what we can get out of it so that you can hear us, see us in any way possible. We're obviously a podcast. If you decide you're like, hey, Ryan, Cody, I don't really want to watch you guys tonight. We have a podcast you can listen to tomorrow while you're prepping for a potential Canucks loss. So there are many ways to be upset about the Vancouver Canucks. But you know what?
Mm-hmm.
We talked about, actually, before we get into anything else, so how do you consume Twitter? Like at your phone? Do you do it on your laptop, iPad? What do you do?
I mean, I'm both.
Okay, so
Yeah.
if you go on your laptop right now, what the heck is going on with my phone?
Uh-huh.
Some guy is sending me, hey, as the market recovers. Nope. Go on your laptop. Do you see the Dogecoin guy?
Yeah.
When did this happen? Today?
This has apparently been going on for like a few days. Like I think 2 days, 3 days ago. Yeah, I didn't see it on my phone, but like a lot of people were tweeting about it, and I was like, "Oh, that's weird." And then I finally noticed it the other day. But I guess it's like an Elon Musk joking about his, I don't know, some legal problem he has with arguably like defrauding a bunch of people over Dogecoin or Dogecoin.
So you click it and it just takes you to the top of your feed. That's it.
Yeah, it's all it does. But
I mean,
he's like memeing.
It links to something. I like it.
It does have a function, but like it is stupid. It's just him memeing the fact that like he's being sued. So,
I guess
he got people.
You know what? I'm just gonna add this to this app. No one's gonna notice. I looked, I'm like, whoa, why is that there? As soon as I logged into Twitter from a little app at the bottom, they're like, well, the bird's still there, but now there's a dog too.
It's
all right.
Twitter's just turning into Neopets.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of Neopets. I barely did Tamagotchi. I stole my sister's for like a day and I killed him within like 10 minutes. I'm like, all right, not for me.
Tamagotchi was stupid. You had to it was just like a walking simulator. And then you like hatched eggs or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. The chat can tell us, but I don't know.
It's maybe David Quadrelli knows about that. Who knows?
I think Tamagotchi is like way before his time.
That's probably true. He probably doesn't even remember Furby or Tickle Me Elmo or man. The 2000s and the 90s were wicked.
What a time.
Yeah, you know, that's back in the day. So I've been looking over. I tried to make this more of a Canucks based show this week because I found I mean, at the same time, the numbers are pretty decent with talking Canucks halfway through. So maybe maybe next week I'll mix it together. I kind of looked at what's left in the schedule, and I think they have 3 wins left in them. That's my guess anyway. And that sucks if you cheer for Team Tank. I don't know if anybody saw the little picture that I did last night after the Rockets game, because I continued to have this cool idea. Team Tank, basically, when they traded Bo Horvat, it's Vin Diesel in like the tank top, like in Fast and Furious, like ripped Vin Diesel after like Fast and Furious 1. Yeah. And then after the trade deadline, it's the no regrets guy.
I saw that. Yeah,
so that's basically where the Canucks kind of are right now. So they're gonna beat Chicago tomorrow, I believe. Calgary is gonna make their push, so Calgary's gonna win on Saturday. We're gonna lose against LA on Monday. Somehow the Canucks are gonna sneak out Tuesday, and then it's Arizona, and
that should be a win.
You could flip a coin, but let's be honest, they're probably gonna beat Arizona. So they got 6 more points. What are your thoughts on like how this all ends for this season anyway? Like for what we've got left?
I thought it was very interesting that after like a loss to the Kraken, which was genuinely quite there's been some pretty embarrassing losses under Rick Tocchet, performance wise, but this one felt incredibly embarrassing because the Kraken were coming off the heels of a back-to-back. Like they had just played the previous night at home in Seattle against Arizona, blew them out 7-1, and they came back. Like the Kraken come back from a multi-goal deficit to blow you out at home 5-2, hold you to 2 shots in the third period, and all Rick Tocchet could say after the game is like I don't know, these guys just fall under bad habits. They're weak mentally. They're not trying. So part of me is like, they'll probably come back against Chicago. It's a home game. It's like before a weekend, like they should come up like, with a fire under them to like not have their coach chew them out for being pathetic.
Yeah.
But this team has time and time again answered pathetic performances with just like the most meekest of efforts where they're just like barely trying. And they're like under Tocchet, like during this losing streak,
kind
they're
of
just
okay. Like,
oh yeah,
like season, like you're
I'm
absolutely
fine
right.
with it.
Yeah,
I'm absolutely fine if they just like completely phone it in and lose the next 5. Like if they want to do that, you know what? Hell yeah. Amen, brother. Go for it. After this exhausting season, just look for the summer. Maybe if you're Brock Besser, you're like, you know what? I don't need to try. I need my trade value to be at its lowest, so this team has to pay to get rid of me. I don't care. I just don't want to be here anymore. He's playing like he doesn't want to be here anymore. It's like plain as day with his effort level on like 70% of most nights. Like he's just like, I'm done. And sure, I can't even blame anyone anymore at this point because it's like it's miserable watching. I can't imagine day in, day out showing up for this team and just like knowing you're going nowhere. Like that's probably a lot. They're gonna probably beat the Flames though, especially now that the Flames are back in it. Doesn't that just like sound right to you? Like Calgary puts themselves, they get back in the race. They got Troy Stature. They got all the ex-Canucks back on the team.
And it's
they
not
beat
even just a
Winnipeg.
win. It's like a win.
Yeah, it's like a 7-1 victory that just like kills their hopes.
Gong show and like Petey goes off for like a hat trick and 2 assists.
Yeah, exactly.
Scores like goal of the year. You're like, what?
Phil DiGiuseppe scores like 4 points somehow. Like it's just like all these random guys show up just the one time, and then the other 3 games they just don't show up. They're like, good, we beat all our homeboys in Vancouver East. It would be, and as a team, like give yourself the best chance at Connor Bedard. Like go for it. Who cares? Lose all of them.
So we have this question with everybody. I mean, I suppose whether it's the show or anything else, like. What's your vibe? Like, if you had to guess, does it finally happen no matter what, or is like, are we just out?
I feel like the irony of this is if, like, say they did lose the last 5 or like 4 or 5, right? Like they get themselves like an 11% chance to net land Connor Bedard. This would be the 1 year where they are poised to pick in the top like 5, and they just stay put. They don't go up. They don't go down. They finally don't lose draft position. Yeah. And they still get like a good player, but like the 1 year where you would have hoped there'd be some change, it doesn't happen. They just stay put. So you can't even be mad that they didn't lose spots. It's just like they're just there.
It's just like, of course, this.
And and like Ottawa somehow like picks it or like Washington. I've been running the tankathon whenever like I have a lull at work, and I just find like the funniest results and I post them on Twitter. And some of them were just like, "Oh God, this can't happen, man!
It's just not fair. Like it's just
not. It's like
if Ottawa got it, come on now. Ottawa's
the
forgotten cousin of Canada.
Yeah, like I try to divorce myself from like the conspiracy type stuff, but like say Washington just like doesn't win anything and they somehow drafted first overall and got Connor Bedard to play out his first few years on the final years of Ovechkin's deal where he's trying to pass Gretzky's record, I would be like, fuck off. You kidding me? Or like that kind of stuff where I'm just like
highlights. Just don't show them.
Like the teams where like they've had like some generational talent, like I feel like you should be excused. Like Pittsburgh at one point was eligible, and I had drawn them into the top 3, and I'm like, what the fuck do you guys need Adam Fantilli for? Okay, you don't need it. You guys won the top 3 pick 5 years in a row, and won a cup within 3 years of all those picks. Yeah, you don't need Connor Bedard. Okay,
you guys want to run it back again? All right.
Yeah. You guys want another top first round pick? Your value's tanking. That's why part of me. Okay, so real conspiracy tinfoil hatchet. If Chicago wins, but
it's not
Kane and Taves are going,
believes that's going to happen.
I know because like obviously like their record is pushing them to being a likelihood
for inevitable,
drafting it. But it also kind of lines up with like they just lost all their stars. They're one of the biggest markets in America for TV revenue, for ticket revenue. Like, so it would completely track if like, oh, here's this market that has been struggling since 2018 or whatever, that they land this generational superstar who allegedly was a Canucks fan, even though he shaved his hair like Patrick Kane. Fucking
Yeah, but
liar.
if you were 18,
Liar.
you'd do the same thing.
Hell no.
Like, come on, I'm almost 40. Look how stupid my hair is.
No, but like, if you're like a pro hockey player and you're like, okay, I cried for a week after the Canucks lost in the Stanley Cup final to Boston, the last thing you'd be doing is modeling your hairstyle off of one of the players that made the Canucks' lives a living hell for so long. So
only 3 years.
I mean, someone replied,
3 years,
but they were the 3 years when they needed to win.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's like, I think someone replied to me. They're like, he was 5 years old when they were in the Cup final. I was like, oh god, like I had never felt so old when I read that. I was just like, oh no, I'm almost double the age of draft eligible children, and that's like the worst feeling.
Oh man, it's the worst. Like so fitting yesterday. So I went to watch the Rockets. It looks like they're losing 2-0 in the third. I think the game's over. You gave it a good shot, Kelowna. I think I'm pretty sure it's over. So I was like 2-0 with like 10 minutes to go. So let's assume Kelowna lost and it's golf season. Maybe I can get that Andrew Crystal interview now. So I'm waiting for my buddy at the door last night, and so I'm waiting. When I look, I'm like, oh, there's Jerome. Oh
hell yeah.
There's Shay. Cool. Yeah. Welcome to Kelowna. When Jerome McGinley's kid is having a night against the team that Shea Weber used to play for. Oh, by the way, now they're just dads.
Yeah.
Now they're just dads.
Of their draft eligible children.
Man, I watched Shea Weber play, and we all said, man, this guy is going to be a stud in the NHL when he gets drafted. These were the things I remember saying, and now it's like, oh, hey, man, your kids are like pretty good at minor hockey. Like I see Shea Weber at the rink like every 2 weeks when he's coaching his kids team with Georges, and like this is where we're at in life now. Like it's Connor Bedard. Like, yeah, my favorite player growing up was Sidney Crosby or like Connor McDavid. Like, listen, man, you're not old because those guys are kids.
I always think back to this is like not that old, but like 2015 or 2016 when Jay Gensel made like his like first real debut with the Pens, and he was like, growing up, I always idolized Crosby, and I always remember thinking like, weren't you just drafted? Like, shouldn't you be like still like kind of, or weren't you drafted like a while ago? Shouldn't you be kind of old? And he was like 23, and then they posted like a picture of him in 2005, and he was like a baby with Crosby in his draft year, and I was like,
no.
What? No.
Oh.
Like, am I this old? Are players catching up to the guys I grew up watching? This makes no sense.
It's like,
I hate it.
I was chatting with my dad about this like a couple weeks ago. I'm like, we are on the cusp of seeing Ovechkin and Crosby retire in the next few years. Like the kid is
he's like the man now.
Retired. Yeah.
He's the elderly man now.
Oh, it's so wild. I mean, that's how life works. Apparently, people actually age. So kind of crazy.
Yeah, we don't want to give like PP1 podcast listeners like existential crisis or anything, but like
you also when like next what's happening anyway.
Yeah, it's gonna happen anyway. So like I'm just here
to hammer
it in. I'm here to hammer it home. But like Bo Horvat getting traded also kind of like had like the lofty existential crisis set in where I'm like, man, I remember this guy's first year and thinking like, oh man, like he's gonna do all right. He's got some skating issues, but like I like his hustle and his work ethic, and he's kind of fun with Derek Dorsett and whoever. Sure. And then soon enough, he's gone for some picks.
Yesterday.
It was just yesterday. He was here. He was the hope of the future, and I think that's part of like kind of like harkening back earlier why Canucks fans still have that foot in the door, like people like Drance, people like myself, Wagner, all them. We have that foot in the door because I don't think anyone that watches the Canucks wants to see that happen with Quinn Hughes and Elias Pettersson. Like a lot of people kind of like are really like holding on to the belief that these two guys aren't going to walk when they're 27 or 28 years old
Mm-hmm.
and nothing has happened with the franchise. Like it was just
Yeah.
like, well, they were fun, but we didn't accomplish anything. Sorry.
Gives you
Like-
hope that Toronto and Edmonton have they're doing it in a different way, and those guys are still there. So I guess if we want to like model yourselves after a sequence of events, Toronto hasn't done anything, and look who
Yeah.
Edmonton hasn't done anything, and those guys are still there. So I mean, maybe we need to just put our foot on the brakes for a second, and be like, guess what? Vancouver isn't that special, even though we all think it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a little bit where you're just like these two like generational record-breaking all-stars for this team
Yeah.
probably won't be enough.
Yeah.
Realistically, to your point about Toronto, like they get to the playoffs, they haven't done anything, but like they set themselves up for as many kicks of the can as possible, like Buffalo has, like New Jersey has for the next God knows how long.
Yeah.
But I mean, Toronto's looking at it like if they don't do it in the next 3 years, they're perfectly set up for a full-on rebuild because all their contracts expire kind of around the same time. So they're set if they really want to be like, all right, we're going to trade for everyone's first round picks and set ourselves up for our next 8-year window.
Yeah, we're going to send you on a playoff run over here. We're going to send you on a deep run over here. And we're going to have that guy's first round pick, that guy's first round pick, and we're going to win the lottery and get this one. And we'll be fine. You'll probably see us in a year and a half.
Yeah, and if the Canucks are suddenly lapped by teams that had a near decade of playoff success and decide to retool or rebuild, and Hughes and Pedersen are gone by that time, like that's terrible. That's so depressing. That's horrible to think about.
This might be our most depressing episode ever, and I'm having a great time.
this is why I stopped doing the Crease cast, because every episode devolved into me being just so sad.
Can you just stop, man? Like I have to cry for a couple seconds. Let's talk about some fun stuff for a second.
Yeah, let's talk about like good stuff. Some hope for the future.
You can see the name of our episode this week, and I may just keep it Numb, Encore. That album's old, in case you're wondering.
Oh God,
that's pushing, I think, 21 now. But great song. Linkin Park's coming out with their Meteora 20th anniversary. Jeez. But,
that album's 20 years old.
Yeah, I know, but a great album. Great album. They're releasing. I'm sure you've heard like a couple unreleased songs. Like, man, I miss Linkin Park. I miss them a lot. So anyway, just I tried making that fun, and now I'm like kind of sad again. So let's talk about some fun stuff. So the Masters. Got my PP1 Masters hat on. Are you a golf fan, Cody?
When it comes to gambling, oh yeah, baby. Otherwise, don't watch it. I actually don't watch any of the sports I really gamble on, except for hockey.
Are you betting on the Masters this weekend?
Yeah, I'm gonna throw some money down on Rory Mac because
I think it feels like it's Rory's weekend. I have him picked too.
I did like a thing. I always do these. Don't ever take gambling advice from me, people who listen to this, because my bets make no fucking sense ever.
That's the beauty of gambling. I don't think anybody's do.
Yeah, this is why I only bet 20 cents per bet, folks, because if you lose, it's 20 cents. You're not really hurting. Yeah. But I was thinking the other day, I can't remember what I was doing. I drove by the Vancouver Golf Club on Austin by my house.
Okay.
And I was thinking, like, I don't know why, but I was just like, oh, wonder what happened to that Rory McIlroy kid. I thought he was supposed to be like the next big thing, and I never hear about him. And then so I like looked him up like a while ago, and I saw he was like pretty good odds to win. So I was like, yeah, all right, I'll throw a 20 center down on him. Why not?
So what does 20 cents pay off to win?
I think it's if you bet $20, it's like $1.40 payout, so you win like $1.20.
That's not even enough for like a pack of gum.
No, but if you parlay it on other 20-cent bets, you could maybe get a pack of gum in a week or so.
Yeah, double bubble.
That's the beauty of the hashtag Severtson system, baby. Bet small, win big.
Wow. I like that. I'm gonna find a way to do. Let's make a ticker for that. The Severtson system? You call that?
Yeah, baby. My buddy runs like a gambling advice account, and every time I win like 40 cents on like a 20-cent bet, I always send him the hashtag and a picture of the bet being like, I told you, And he's like, "You're an
Like,
idiot."
what if you bet $1? What if we bet $1?
Yeah, that's the total like gambler's fallacy where you just like know you have a problem and you're like, I should have put $30
Yeah.
instead of 20 cents. You're like,
I haven't won in a
maybe you
month
should-
and I'm almost
Yeah.
broke. But if
Yeah.
I go back to 20 cents, I should make it back. Like, no, you won't make money
No,
then again at that point.
you'll never make your money.
So
That's the point of the system, folks.
I entered, there's like a pick six kind of thing, like pick one guy from each pool, and obviously
Yeah.
lowest round, wins. So you can win a round of golf with Paige Spearneck. I'm sure you
Ooh.
are aware of who that is.
Yeah.
And then you get a free lifetime subscription for 4for4 Fantasy Football, which is actually a really good site if you're a fantasy football enthusiast like I am. So
Dang.
best case scenario, round of golf and free fantasy football advice for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I'm sure my wife would be okay with it if I went and played a round of golf with a gorgeous woman, but
Yeah.
aside from herself. So
if it's a competition, you win. She can't get mad at
love
it,
you, honey, even though she doesn't listen to the show. So yeah, I'm in for Masters weekend. Got my first round booked for Saturday with my pops and my father-in-law. It's gonna be a good time.
Nice.
I got some golf booked for May in Kamloops. Go to Tobiano for the first time. Very excited about that. We got PP1 Podcast ball markers. If you guys saw on our Instagram and our Twitter, we got some new hats and stuff. This was last year's hat.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I'm absolutely ready for the Masters this weekend. It's one of the best sporting events because there's so like that stupid jacket just makes it all worthwhile. And some of the greatest moments happen. We all remember Tiger Woods and the chip. That is one of the greatest sports moments in my life. I remember that so vividly at my parents' house watching that. My dad's sleeping on the couch because he just naps on Sundays. And I remember watching that, and I'm just like, I'm watching Tiger's obviously doing his thing, and he chips, and then it does its whole thing, and then it stops on, we all know the thing, stops on the check, and everyone around the globe had the exact same thought, and within like an hour probably, they had that as a Nike commercial.
Yeah.
And
it really had it queued up.
Oh, it was perfect. So to me, that is easily one of the greatest sports moments ever. And the fact that it's with golf, which is, I mean, it's not the most exciting sport, that's for sure. But I mean, the theater of it is worth it.
I think it just feels like the stakes are a lot higher because it is like an individual sport.
Yeah.
And so much is riding on each individual move. You
For
know?
sure. Yeah.
So like when you notice it, when you recognize like a golfer has made a swing and he knows it's a shit one, you can see it on their body language, and you're like, oh no, how does this change everything? Like that's what makes it like really interesting.
Or he makes like a wood shot, like we've seen Phil Mickelson make it, Tiger's made it, where he's like just absolutely like in the thick of the woods, and you got to get it through like literally the square on our screen here.
Yeah.
And just like wires it and puts it, I mean, he puts it like 30 feet from the pin, but he manages to get on the green. You're like, no human being should have made that. That is like a simulator video game shot. And he did a real life event that happened just now. And I'm never going to forget you for that. He may never win, but
with unbelievable high stakes while doing that too. That's always like the thing that blows me away too. Is like, it's one thing to do that if you were like just practicing or like fucking around with like your boys, but like to do that when
there's $4 million riding on it.
Yeah, there's like a huge check and all your sponsorship money. Like no pressure, dude.
No biggie. And of course, we tried that on the golf course. You think, oh yeah, like I'm pretty decent. I could clear that 10-foot.
I know what I'm doing. Shank's completely right.
Right beside you. Like, every single time. Every single time. So your AHL game's pretty strong. People know you a fair amount for your AHL coverage, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been watching? He's not a Canuck anymore, but have you been watching Kole Lind out in the coach?
I have not been watching him, but I do a thing where like periodically I'll check up on the stats of all like old or ex Utica players just to be like, all right, like how are they tracking and progressing? And I saw his like score line and I was actually kind of shocked like he hadn't been called up by Seattle yet, because typically like Seattle this year is really reliant on guys like thriving on high shooting percentages.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the last time I checked, I mean, this was like a long time ago when I looked at the shooting percentages specifically, but he was like in like the 18 to 20 range. So I was kind of like,
wow.
like, well, if he's scoring like 15 goals and 20 assists or whatever, like theoretically, like they
Yeah.
would maybe want to give him a look, unless they're just like, nah, we know what to expect now. We don't really want to give him a look, but like
Yeah.
nearly a point per game in his D5 or D6 or whatever it is, like it's might not be enough to get a NHL look, but like I was kind of surprised that Seattle hadn't actually given him a try because I mean, look at the Canucks. They
Yeah.
don't really have any point per game forwards in the AHL right now. They probably could use a type like Kole Lind to come in and juice their stats, but
Just under half of his goals are on the power play. So he's got 30 goals. He had 29 when I looked the other day.
dang.
So he did score 61 points on the season, 13 PPGs.
Whew.
Yeah, just shy of a point per game. He's like a penalty minute per game, which is to be expected with him.
Yeah.
Just it really makes. I mean, it sucks he didn't work out with Vancouver, but I would like to see him work out with Seattle, even if it means that maybe he's just one of those guys that he gets his 15 to 20 games a season with the team, and he's up and down, and because we all know what he can do. We know what his ceiling is, that's for sure. But
Yeah. It's definitely very disappointing, like with hindsight, knowing how much this management group has invested into developing staff
yeah,
and kind of thinking in hindsight, like what they could have accomplished with the 2016, 2017, 2018 draft classes if they had actually had like development staff on hand and didn't have a AHL team 300 million miles away
yeah,
and completely out of sight, out of mind. Because like Kole Lind wasn't really given any kind of shot. Neither was Jonah Gadjevich, neither was Lucas Yashik. Like these guys
yeah,
that were like pretty decent AHLers when given the actual opportunity, but neither of them were until when it didn't matter. Like
mhm,
Kole Lind didn't get any power play time, any PK time until his final year on his ELC with the Canucks. And by that point, it didn't matter
yeah,
because it was like you can't do anything about it when his final year of his ELC is the bubble season and your coach is a lame duck, your GM's a lame duck, the team is playoffs or bust mode, so they have
yeah,
no incentive to try him out. So all these guys that arguably probably could have developed into something just did get a chance. Like Jonah Gadjevich is like whatever for San Jose, but he's giving them credible minutes in a fourth
yeah.
line role. And he's got like, 5 goals or 6 goals or whatever it is this year. Like I know it's cheap goal production for 5 minutes a game or whatever and some fighting.
Or
Canucks
look at
probably could have
Jared
used
McCann.
that.
Look at Jared
Oh
McCann.
god, the Jared McCann thing or like even Adam Gaudette, like all these guys that were like they were either sent to a system that had no time to develop or they were brought up immediately and just like completely like thrown to the wolves
Forced into the
and
wrong
blamed for it.
situation. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, like the Gaudette thing, like I think one of the first things I did for Canucks Army when I came back or started writing for them was this Trent Cull interview where he was like, if I had it my way, Adam Gaudette would have been with me for like a full season before he got any NHL time because he was still raw and he still needed a lot of seasoning. And it's like,
mhm.
yeah, you're right.
We
He should have
agree.
been. And you
But they
couple
didn't.
that
They
with
couldn't. They
well,
that was how that
they
team worked. They're like, well, we got to put him in. We need a guy.
well, their whole modus operandi was, okay, Ryan Johnson, you take care of the AHL team. If we need a call up, give us the oldest, most experienced ex-NHLer. We don't care about the kids. And then they'd be like, okay, what about development? And they're like, what's that word? Huh?
Yeah,
It's a lot of syllables for us, bud.
yeah.
Like he made one annual trip to Utica a year, and
Who's
he
the
was
best
like, yeah, it's totally
pickleball player?
fine.
Right?
Uh,
Who's the best pickleball player, and that's who's going to get called up.
yeah, who's the name I remember? Who's the name that the owner is going to remember? That's
Yeah,
pretty much all it was.
yeah.
And it's tragic because like Kole Lind, I mean, for Seattle, he had I don't know like 25 games for them last year, and he was decent production, like nothing to write home about, but like that could have been like on the Canucks for cheap. They just
Serviceable NHLer. Like
yeah, that's
we
the
we look at
goal.
that right now, and I mean, guys like Dakota Joshua and Niels Oman, and
Mhm.
there have been guys that were like, yeah, Yes.
Yeah.
That's what we want.
Yeah.
We can use those guys while we're waiting for the other guys to figure themselves out. And that's where a Kole Lind would have fit in. He's not that marquee of a player, but that's where he would be used, and that's where he'd be useful. And now they're past that.
And there's also kind of like an age thing too. Like you would sign like a Dakota Joshua type 3 years ago to give you a buffer for when a Kole Lind could come up, play 20 games a season, and then finally earn some more reps, like in a full-time role, assuming he earned it.
Yeah.
But now it's kind of like you're just like filling in bodies because you don't have anything coming. Whereas like if you would have had a kid like Kole Lind who was like what 22, 23 when he first started getting reps with Seattle.
Yeah.
Assuming he was with the Canucks and actually had been developed properly, you're comfortably going, okay, when he's 24 in our system and playing 30 games a year, we know there's probably upside because he's still pretty young as a forward. Whereas with Dakota Joshua, you're like, okay, he's 26, he's 27 or whatever.
Yeah.
This is probably what he's going to be, but we're going to try and, squeeze whatever we can out of him in a first line role and hope for the best. Whereas you bet against like the age with your development system, and that's just never what they did. And so they lost like an entire draft class purely off of just like not having any clue about like development or aging curves, which is
they didn't use the Severtson system.
Tragic. They didn't put their 20-cent bets down on
you know what? They bet big. They bet big on 0
on Connor Garland and OEL. That was their big Severtson system bet.
Yeah.
That was like 20 cents for a huge return.
Yeah, didn't do what we wanted it to do. So we got that. We got Seattle. I mean, Seattle's going to make the playoffs, aren't they?
I think they are. I don't think they. It'd be shocking if they fell out because I think they're first wild card spot right now.
Kind of like the Mariners did a couple years. Remember that? Remember the whole Mariners?
Oh yeah, when they were secured
the
and they like lost it over like the final like 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever.
A mathematical volcano would have to happen for the Mariners to not make the playoffs this year. And then I remember when they missed, I thought, there's no way that happened. They said the math was too good. They said it was too good. Oh well,
that rocks.
The Blue Jays, screw you guys, whatever. It's funny when you hear stuff like that. Like, you know what? Never guarantee anything.
Yeah, like
you'll get burnt.
So the Abbotsford Canucks, speaking of, they've been selling and advertising tickets for playoff home dates, but there's a non-zero potential that they lose all 5 of their final games and lose the right to host home games.
Like last year.
Like last year, where they lost it on the final 2 games of the season. Like, it's not completely out of the realm of possibility.
That's so I was hearing stupid how that works, though. Like how that is works. Like you should be even if it was a best of 5, like it should be you should be guaranteed like the 2 home games. Like that's the beauty.
Especially because like I mean, I get it. They're probably thinking like it's a 3-game series in the entry round. We don't want to pay, the San Jose Fish, to spend $3,000 on a private charter or a bus, for 1 game in Abbotsford. Like I kind of get that,
for, though.
But it's like exactly
that's what you sign up for. It's a pro sports team.
Yeah, like it would, but it's just kind of like
I get logistics.
I'm sure
the reality of it for sure.
I've heard, like, obviously there's some stuff in the news right now that some teams are pretty unhappy with the current like runner, like the Gary Bettman of the AHL, Scott Howson. So I wonder if maybe that's what it has to do with, is that you have these independently owned AHL franchises who are like, look, this playoff system doesn't like benefit anyone or any of the individual owners, because if we make the playoffs, great, but if we don't win, like we're somehow punished financially. Like we still have to send our players to another barn, but we make no money off of that, which is kind of like bullshit.
It's stupid. I mean, even you look at the WHL. I mean, Kelowna got pumped, but both teams get an opportunity to put people. I mean, again, Kelowna didn't do much. It was like half full last night, which sucks. you're watching a team like come for the other team. Don't even come
at the
for
very
your
least.
team. And like Seattle looks great. It looked like they were in a marathon mode. Kelowna was just trying to grab onto anything at all possible. And they just pumped them in the third period. And you're watching like that's why they're gonna go far. But come for the other team. And it was always that way, even when the Canucks were doing well. Oh, Crosby's coming to town or Ovechkin's coming to town. Like, okay, in this case, why don't you cheer for the team that's here? Like, we have the Sedins and the Luongo and Burrows and Kessler and Biek, all these guys that were just killing it. Sometimes forget about the other team. In this case, come see the other team. It's worth it. But at least both barns are getting that revenue. You're getting 50-50 money. You're getting concessions. You're getting a little bit more of a carryover of merch and this and that. It's a night out. Downtowns both do well for both of those cities that are involved. Just the bare minimum. And especially in the AHL, like, again, it's minor pro.
Yeah.
So, the stakes are a little bit higher than what they were in junior hockey. You're now men and you're getting everything that comes with that. So I don't like it. I don't like that system. I think no matter what, there should be a split, and who cares how it ends. It's a sweep anyway. I think they deserve it. That's business.
Yeah. I mean, if they get swept in 2 games, if you're alternating home dates, whatever, at least both teams get a share for spending the dough to send their team off to lose.
That's the Ryan system. It doesn't it doesn't have the same
everybody wins.
Panache. Everybody wins. Yeah, that's okay. I don't get to have my name in it, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Before we finish up, you're talking about tinfoil hat stuff and conspiracy theories. This was something that came up at my work this week, and it came up because I brought it up. I'm not a conspiracy guy, although occasionally, I guess, I like to dabble into conspiracy.
I dabble in my tinfoil, sir.
I like to dabble. I like to buy the odd thing of tinfoil. Here's the thing. We all heard on the news, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, they're naming a new space crew to go around the moon next year. One of them's Canadian. That's why we're all paying attention. To do a little loop-de-loop on like a, recon mission before they go to the moon. Hear me out. Neil Armstrong went to the moon with Buzz Aldrin, all those. They went to the moon, was it 1964 or 65? I'm not a historian, but it's
the 60s, yeah.
In the 60s. We all know what happened and, with the Challenger and all. I get that.
Yeah.
But are you telling me in all that time you didn't want to go back to the moon once after all that? With all the money and all the technology we've been given, we had Red Bull jump from space off a little timing platform back into the stratosphere. You're telling me that happened. You've got a guy like Elon Musk. We talk about the Dogecoin on Twitter today. We've got a guy that has way too much money that actually is launching rockets and landing them back on the pad. We're at this point in the human race, and you're telling me you guys didn't want to go back to the moon and like get samples and brag and do all these things. So you're like, no, one time's good. We're good. That was enough. That doesn't.
Maybe it's like
with me.
Maybe it was like a hockey players and like Ottawa thing, like, or Winnipeg, like just nobody wants to go.
But it's like
they went around, they were like, I know, but they're probably just like does anybody want to go to the moon? And like one guy raised his arm and everyone else was like we want to go to Mars. We don't like moon's been claimed. No one's gonna remember the second team. So send us to like the next like big unit so we can get our names on like a dollar bill or whatever. That'd be my only rebuttal, but like, yeah, it is very bizarre.
Like you look at Mount Everest and like that would be like one guy climbing like, okay, we've achieved greatness as a human race. Like,
but
no one
Everest
else
is cool.
The moon
Everest is very cool. Not really.
Oh, it's cool. If you could, if you didn't have to worry about G forces and money or whatever, and you're guaranteed a trip back to Earth, you wouldn't want to go to the moon.
The horrifying space vacuum of death that is space. Yeah. I mean,
if they're still going to space anyway, how many people have gone to space? Like, can we go to the moon? Not this time, guys. Maybe next time.
They should send They should send what's his name there? Guy from Star Trek, William
Oh,
Shatner. Maybe it'll because did you read about how he went on this trip with Jeff Bezos, and instead of being enlightened by traveling to space, it gave him an existential crisis that we're destroying the Earth. So maybe they should send
backfired.
him to the moon. Yeah, totally backfired, but they should send him to the moon to try and reinstill his faith in mankind, that there is hope for humanity.
I'm just thinking, how rad would it be to be on the moon? And they're just thinking, nah, if it happened, we've been once. That's good. As the world,
I
we're good.
I would absolutely go, and then when they're about to leave, I'd be like, guys, I'm not going. Leave me here, and then crack open a beer in space somehow, and then just
George Clooney.
chill on the rock. What's that movie? It's Space
Moon?
Cowboys, and it ends with Clint Eastwood sitting on the moon, looking at the Earth. That's
Oh,
a
yeah.
pretty cool way to go. I'm not gonna lie, that'd be pretty tight. So yeah, actually,
I'm just saying, to me, it just doesn't check out that we've been away that long and we haven't been there again.
especially for such a mineral hungry society that is Earth, that we're not there mining the shit out of it for whatever good it has, like lithium maybe,
Yeah.
for batteries or helium. I don't know what moons have.
We like to waste so much, and we're gonna make electric cars,
Yeah.
and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna be self-sufficient, and we're gonna have AI, and we're gonna have all this, but you don't want to go back to the moon. Come on.
For free resources that no one owns. Little sus, as they say. Even sending robots there to grab this shit. It is bizarre. It doesn't make any sense. I'm with you. I'm tinfoiled up now.
It's should we put on our rally caps, tinfoil rally cap?
Yeah.
Inside out. I think it's the same. We'll make pirate hats or something.
Yeah,
And at the very least, we get cool pirate tinfoil hats.
Yeah.
Cody, this is about the time of the show where shameless plug time. So by all means, anything you'd like to chat about, maybe you got a new bike, or you're on a different podcast, or talking about stanchies or statsies or curtsies, or maybe your shoes are wearing out and you just whatever you like take a minute for yourself, and it's the floor is yours, man.
Yeah, PP1 listeners, if you want to buy me a new set of shoes, because mine are getting a little worn out, make sure to follow my work at canucksarmy.com. I was supposed to do the stanchies tomorrow, and I decided I don't care to watch Chicago-Vancouver game on a Thursday night. I'd rather just enjoy my life. So instead, I'll be covering the Monday game where they play, I think, Calgary or LA?
LA, yeah.
Oh, LA's okay. I'll take that. That's way better than Chicago. Good God. Speaking of having nothing to write about, I got nothing. That's actually how I'd open it. Maybe I should take the game and just be like, my opening paragraph is I got nothing, folks. Here's the game.
Make it
it's just nothing but GIFs.
Make it all about Connor Bedard and the cool places to eat in Chicago, and former line mates that may come back, and all about Dave Boland or something. I don't know.
I would never want to
the
get
life and times of Dave Boland. Why are you? I don't even know.
Yeah.
It's something like that. You could do that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, folks, find me there on Canucks Army and my Twitter handle. If you don't follow me already, I'm sure you probably do, at Cody Severtson. Hashtag Sievert System. Tweet out your bets so I can parlay off of them. 20 cents, folks. Make sure to do that too. But yeah, thanks for having me on, man.
Thanks. I'm glad
it took so long for the technical issues to sort out, but hey, we got there eventually.
It was one of the longer figured out, so that's for sure. One time it was me, one time it was you, then it was you again, and then it was you again, and then it wasn't me, and then we somehow connected. I've been there. We've had it on our football show, and you should come on for that at some point. We've got our that helps no one fantasy cast. That's
I don't know anything about football.
What?
I don't know anything. I don't watch. I watch the Super Bowl, and that's it.
You're like that Alanis Morissette song. You're uninvited now.
Who's that? I'm just kidding. I know who Alanis Morissette is. I don't know that song,
yeah. It's got weird.
I'm not a terrible Canadian. Okay.
It's I know Avril Lavigne. I know Simple Plan. It's fine.
Yeah. I know that
Snow.
I know that Chad Kayuger guy.
Love it. People, as you know, this is the PP1 podcast. Make sure you follow us along. Can you tell your friends to subscribe? Tell them to have a listen or a watch. If you do,
buy some hats, okay?
We can get some sponsors, which means I can throw away free stuff to all you again. I enjoy doing that because all the sponsorship money, sure, it pays for the show being on. And after that, I just go and get stuff made and we give it out. And you all seem to really like that. So I don't care. Hockey cards, hats, t-shirts. I don't know. I got nothing to do, man. I'm almost 40. I'm just sitting here waiting to
waiting to buy some hats.
Just ride it out into the sun, man. I'm in Kelowna. So anyway, check us out. Yeah. We'd appreciate that. We're on Crier Media. Thank you very much for hosting us. It's a great place. Folks, we appreciate it. Enjoy the Masters this weekend. Cody Severtson was our guest. I'm Ryan. This is the PP1 podcast. Ted, get better. You're on next week.